Okay, so this is kind of the receiver final test and on the air video. The last video I mentioned I needed to install the low pass filter and the BNC connector. So I've installed those now. That consists of two 37.6s, each with 14 windings. And then the antenna is isolated from the LPF via this binocular core here, and that consists of 2 turns bifilar. So let's go over the setup that I have here. So what I wanted to do is, before I actually take this on the air, let's just test to make sure the HDSDR is all set up and we're receiving a signal. So just like in my previous video, I've actually got the signal generator generating a 14.050 megahertz signal. I've got that signal is coming in to the radio through the antenna jack here. I have the I and the Q audio signals coming out here and going into this external USB sound card here. Now the reason I have to use an external USB sound card is a couple of reasons. The first one is my laptop doesn't have a microphone jack. So that's the first one. And then secondly, a lot of the microphone jacks on laptops are mono only, and you do require a stereo line in to the computer. So that's so my IQ signals are coming through the USB sound card into the computer. Now the USB sound card itself is just a cheap USB sound card that I got off Amazon. And for it to work, I did have to actually update the software on my laptop. I'll include links to both the sound card and the software updates in the description below. So let's move on to HDSDR itself. So let me just pan back here and pan over to HDSDR. So I've got that running. The installation for HDSDR is very simple. I'll include a link below, but basically you install the software. It's very straightforward and you're good to go. So one of the things that you do have to do is there is a DLL that comes with the config SoftRock software called XDIO 570.dll. Now you have to copy that from your config SoftRock home directory into HDSDR. So if you don't do that, it won't work. Now to confirm that it's actually installed correctly, you click on this button here, XDIO, and what should come up is the config software SoftRock configuration screen that we saw before, so right here. Now, if it's working correctly, not only should this come up, but this light should be green. And then when you click on tune, the requested frequency here should match the local oscillator frequency here, which it does. So 14.053.1, 14.0531. So that's all good to go. Just going through some other settings, because there are the HDSDR software comes with a variety of configuration settings, and if you don't get them right, you won't be on the air. So let's just go through some of those. So on the bandwidth, you want to set that to 48 kilohertz on the input. The output we won't worry about for the moment, we're just worried about receiving here. In other options, let's just go to this options menu F7 here. Now the first one that you want to set is the select input. Now I think it will default to this SoftRock SI570, but if it doesn't, click on that. The 16-bit drivers is what I've got clicked here. So just moving on in your sound card settings, you should have from RX input whatever your input from the radio is. So in my case, it's line in from this USB sound device, which is the external sound card that I mentioned before. And then RX output, if you want to listen to it just on your speakers, you want to set obviously the speakers there for that. Just moving on, continuing on in the options. In the input channel mode for RX, this is where you want to set I in the left channel and Q in the right channel. Now that's the default. What you might have to do, depending on how you have wired up your board, is you might have to swap those, which I had to do. So I've got those. You'll see that on the board there's an option to either crisscross the wires on the output or to have them straight through. I've got them straight through, and I had to swap I and the Q channel. On output channel, you want AF to both channels, and that is the default again. So the next thing that we need to do is adjust the phase and amplitude of the I and the Q signals. So from the board itself, from the Ensemble board, you will get slight differences in the amplitude of the I and the Q signals, and they won't exactly be 90 degrees out of phase, which is required. And what will happen in that case is, you can see I've got a primary signal here, very strong signal, and then I've got its image over here. And so what we want to do is go into the calibration settings menu and then into input calibration for RX, and we want to adjust the amplitude and the phase so that it creates a minimum for this image here. So let me go ahead and do that. Now, as you see me adjusting the amplitude, you should see that image decrease and increase. So ideally, you want that image to completely go away. So let's try adjusting it. So this is the one we want to go away right here. Let's try adjusting. That's going the wrong way. I'm adjusting amplitude here. That's going the wrong way. So I want to adjust it. So you'll reach a certain point where you adjust it and then it starts to move back up again. So there we go. That's almost a minimum there. So that's almost a minimum there. Now you can see I didn't have to actually adjust the phase here, but you can see it's the same thing. You adjust the phase and that image will increase and decrease. So let's adjust it back. So now you can see I've got one strong primary signal, and I've got a bit of mess around the local oscillator frequency, which you'll always get. And then there's no image signal at all. So that's good to go. So let me just turn the volume up a bit. You can hear that signal coming through. So I've actually got the signal generator set to 14.050. My tune frequency is 14.049255. So we should be getting an approximately 745 hertz tone there, which is, I guess, what it is. Close to that, I don't exactly know what it is. So as I adjust this frequency, you can see, ooh, I've got some nasty, there we go, there's some nasty noise there, but you can see I've adjusted that frequency and that changes the frequency coming out of HDSDR. So that's HDSDR pretty much set up. Obviously the next step is to get this thing on the air and to see if we can hunt around and find some real signals out there.
Anyway, hence the name of that. But yeah, I have a whole library full of other waveforms from around the world with different systems now, and I'll be kind of just putting them up when I can, but the upload process is very time consuming. It takes 40 minutes for 5 minutes.
So as you can see, we're on the air there, listening to a QSO on 14.190 megahertz, and it's coming through pretty darn good. So let me just switch over. I've got my IC 7610 on the same frequency, so I'll just switch antennas here.
decode the 5-minute,
that's
usually
through
5-minute
7610.
So that's the situation on that. That's the situation
And,
on the amplifier.
swapping over. Let me turn the volume up on here.
That's pretty much the latest, and it's been really busy.
So that's a pretty good comparison between an $85 kit and a radio that's a lot more expensive. So I'm pretty happy with the receive so far. Everything looks good. The next thing, let me just turn this gentleman down a little bit. So the next thing we're going to do is start to get together the transmit circuitry. More S&D components, more toroids to wind. But obviously getting the receive working first is always what I like to do. So anyway, next step is to get the transmit circuitry working.